All right, hello everyone. I took a little bit of a break during Christmas. Didn't take any interviews, was just enjoying my time with family. But Christmas is kind of over, and I was like thinking who to interview. And Luis was actually complaining on Twitter that I like literally interviewed like any Magic player who won a game in their life, and he wasn't one of them. So because I'm a nice guy, I immediately messaged Luis if he wants to do it. Luis is a pro player currently in the Rivals League from France. He has 2 PT top 8s, or how should I say it? He definitely has one in like the previous system. Then they made like the new system of like the regional pro tours, and he top 8'd one of those as well. And he has 6 GP top 8s with 4 finals. So that's pretty unfortunate. I never really tested with Luis myself, but we're both from Europe, so we saw each other during the GPs and everything. And he also came to visit to Japan, and we like hanged out one night, so I got to know him better. What's up, Luis? How it's going?
I'm very good, Petr. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You seem a little bit nervous. This is not the Louis I know.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to talk about myself for a very long time, so I need to get it out of my system. But once we're gonna get started, I'll be very comfortable. Don't worry about me.
Okay, sure. So where to start? You became one of the rivals. Did that play like a big influence on how you like approach Magic, or like were you just like playing a lot even before that? Like, can you just talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I was mostly playing Magic before getting Rivals, and now I'm paid to do it, so I have no incentive to stop doing so. But I was playing a lot anyways, and it was like my goal anyway to be able to make a living with Magic, so I was just very fortunate.
So you were just like always trying to like become one of the pros. It's just like something that you went for. When did that like all started? Like, I'm not. You can talk about the beginnings as well, but I'm mostly like asking when like you decided, oh, this is like really what I want to do, and you just went like really into it. But you can talk about the beginnings as well, I guess.
Well, I mean, I like my first PT was in 2008, so 12 years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I guess that was the beginning. But I stopped studying in, I want to say 2015, 2016. Like I just stopped my studies and devoted myself to Magic full time, which was pretty much what I was doing beforehand. But it was like,
yeah, I sorry to interrupt. I actually remember that we met on a party in Kyoto. I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And you kind of said that you're going all in on Magic. And back then I didn't really take you that seriously, but now you're in Rivals, so good for you.
Yeah, it was the year. I think I'm like 20. No, it was 2017, 2016. I can't remember. But like the year before, I missed gold by 1 point at the end of the season, and then like there was the time where I started to like stop everything else I was doing in my life and focus on Magic primarily.
How was the you basically talked about like your pro player path, but how was like the beginnings? I don't really know how big like for example the French Magic community is. Like, do you just have like a lot of players trying to qualify for Pro Tour? How did that all start for you?
Very quickly, like I started to hang around. Like it used to be that the French would all test together. Back when I qualified for our first PT, like the Ruels, Wafo, Matignon, I think Levy, Nassif, all of them, before they started splitting up a little bit. And like at the same time, like the Ruels stopped playing as well, so the groups were like a little bit smaller, and they started taking in more PTQs, qualified people. So like I think in 2010 or 2011 for PT Philadelphia, we tested with Levy and all those fine people. That was like when I started to test with the real pros, quote unquote. My first couple of PTs I just tested with Rémi Fortier, who won the PT Valencia 2007, who was like not really in this kind of group, and who always has been a close friend of mine, and was one of my first like testing partner, and still is like to an extent these days, even though it doesn't play as much.
So basically in France, once you like become pretty good, you like immediately get to test with like the good players, or how does it work out?
Um, it's it depends on the time. Like, what we used to do was like for every PT, like we had like a core group of French people that was like not including Nassif mostly and Levy.
Mm-hmm.
But like back when Dajan was on the Pro Tour, and we had like a core group of people, and a lot of us were silver as well. So we had always like 4 or 5 people qualified for every PT, and we would just like see the list of every French player that was qualified, and we usually would test with them unless we're like there was like such a high number and some people that we didn't know at all we didn't like couldn't test with them, because when you have like 14, 15 people and you have to rent a house in Hawaii, like you can like fit everyone, right? And you have to make some tough decisions. But yeah, we tried to for the most part like include as much people as we could, because like qualifying for your first PT, you want your experience to feel special, right? And you want
Yeah.
to you want it to, so we try to include as many people as we could, like to
That's awesome.
play the group.
You said that you kind of poured completely into Magic about like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I assume you play a lot of Magic. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of like perceive you as like a grinder. You always like play a lot, Magic Online, stuff like that. Can you just like talk about your preparation? Like, do you just play all the time anyway, or like when a tournament comes, you like play even more? Or just like maybe sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Just like talk about your preparation for Magic tournaments if you can.
I almost only play to prepare for tournaments. Like I don't like except when there's Vintage Cube on Magic Online, pretty much. I just play for tournaments. I don't really enjoy playing like for just like I'm not gonna like fire Modern League playing Eldrazi like I know some people do, or play some random arena games. But when I have a tournament deadline, I just play Magic. Like I try to spend as much time as I can awake playing either playing Magic or discussing Magic with my teammates, or watching people play Magic, or like, which is all like different kind of preparation. But try to invest as much time as I possibly can. Which is also why, like, when I don't have a tournament, I don't want to really play Magic. Like when you spend 14 hours, 15 hours a day thinking about Magic, just like what you don't want to play Magic in free time. It doesn't make sense.
That makes sense. You're currently in the Rivals League. I personally not in MPL or Rivals, so I don't actually have any experience with like the tournaments. Is it different from like maybe Pro Tours? Like, is the fact that your opponent usually knows what they're doing, like, does it make you prepare differently? Is the preparation different than we used to test for the Pro Tour? Can you just maybe talk about it a little bit?
I think in the Rivals League, not so much. I test mostly with Jean-Emmanuel Desprats and Théo Moutier, and recently with Mathieu Avignon, which is one of the other Rivals French player.
Usually when you say like a French name, it's just like really hard for me to understand, but that's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, but I know that for Theo and myself, when we like the opponents we face are pretty much like the range of your PT level opponent, right? It's like from former gold level pro to like high level grinder, those kind of play level. But I know Jean-Emmanuel for the MPL specifically has like kind of other considerations. And for instance, in the MPL, nobody plays shit decks. Like that never happens. You have 0% like non-functional decks. Whereas in rival leagues, some people still take their liberties. Like they have some, it's like the arena generation, which is very talented in some aspects of the game, but also has some, like Theo, for instance, is a very like the purest example of the arena generation. He qualified to one of the arena PTs last year, did well there, and just got rivals from that. That's the case for a lot of people in the Rivals League. And he was saying like, oh yeah, maybe against Uro deck we should bring in Gravedigger's Cage. It's like, well, no, that's not how it works. Like if you bring in, especially against specifically Uro, this is a card that cycles. If you spend a card to beat the card that cycles, you're never going to win. Like it's not, especially against a mid-range deck. And this is the kind of like specific like little example that comes with experience. And that those players, but like I know their technical level is really excellent, for instance, because they tend to play a lot and a lot of Magic. But on the deck choice, the construction, the selection, it's the same kind of pitfalls that you will see at the PT level. Obviously, in the MPL, there's gonna be some weekends, like someone had like their pet died or something, and they didn't have time to prepare properly and stuff like that. But
yeah, usually they know what they're doing.
Yeah, like in the grand scheme of things, people know what they're doing.
What do you actually think about the new system? Like, from what I kind of understand, once you get in, it's actually not that hard to like stay in, and like the money and stuff is pretty good. You also have a chance to make MPL and stuff, but it's actually pretty hard to get in. So, you know, even for the people who are in, it's not like in the previous system. Like if you're a good player, as like maybe you or me, if you just go to a bunch of GPs, you're kind of like pretty likely to hit like at least silver or gold. So you can kind of like, you know, be sure that you're gonna stay on the train or whatever. But here, if you're like kind of like full out, you know, it might be hard to get back in and stuff like that. Like, what do you think about it? Do you like the new system? Just like if you can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I have not a strong opinion, but I think it's a very complicated issue. First thing is like you cannot have a system that works similarly in COVID condition as in like you were saying, like going to a bunch of GPs. There is no GP.
Yeah, of course. I'm just like, you know, I'm not saying it's bad or wrong. I just wanted you to talk about it.
I understand. I just try to just address that. It always has been super easy to stay on the train once you're on the train. That's always been the case. If you qualified for all 4 PT at the start of the year, like going X6 to a PT is trivial. You have to put very little effort. Pierre Dagen, for instance, like the last couple of years, he was on the train. He did not try at all. Like he didn't play a single GP, even in Europe. And he just like kept being on the train because like once you're gonna go to the tournament, you want to prepare for it. But like it's so easy to once you qualify for all the tournaments at the beginning of the year to stay on the train, and it's so much harder to get on the train from like even being like passing from getting silver is pretty easy if you try hard and you attend every GP. Like getting like it was like you can pretty much get silver just from GPs, like from X3s and stuff, and like 1 or 2 top 8 in the season. Maybe you win a PTQ and do decently at the tournament. But like a lot of time you had like invites that would overlap, and like I know like a few seasons in a row I didn't play all 4 PTs and I missed gold or the next threshold by 1 point or 2 points, and I had like one invite that I couldn't use during the year because I top 8 two GPs in a row or stuff like that. Like that happened like to me a lot of time, and it's kind of similar. Maybe it's not as like maybe it's aggravated during those times, but I think the system as it was at the beginning of the year with like the fractional invites that were supposed to replace silver pretty much. That was pretty good, and I assume they will go back to this kind of system. Also, it's like everything is very temporary, and it's also very reconforting to be able to say like, unless I'm like in the bottom of the barrel, I'm gonna have a job next year, right? I can invest in that. I can like make life decisions around it. I can because even if you're, especially if you're in the MPL, right? Because you literally cannot not have a job next year unless you like cheat or stuff like that. So
also you probably made like a lot of money anyway, so even if you did lose it, you're probably fine next year anyway.
But yeah, it has some benefits. I don't like that there are so few tournaments that you can prove yourself in from a challenger perspective. I think that's really shitty. And, but at the same time, you can't have tournaments. So
you basically don't really like it, but that's because of Corona, not because of the system. So you like the system before, but you know now we have Corona, so there's nothing we can do.
Exactly. I think most of what Magic players are complaining are COVID related issues, and well, what are you gonna do? Like just wait and get vaccinated when
well, I think a lot of people were complaining even before COVID, but I kind of agree with what you're saying. I think the system before COVID was pretty good as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're gonna have some things that you want to iron out and some details and about the tiebreakers, but like the system has changed a lot during the past 4 years, like consistently, and we were about to have a system that was like pretty solidified, and at this time COVID happened. So like there's like just like
Yeah, it's not just Magic. Like pretty much no matter what industry you were in, you kind of got screwed. So it just sucks for everyone.
yeah, it does.
Um, One thing, one of the last things that I would like to ask about is like now because of COVID, we mostly play online, right? Or like not mostly, we just play online. Is that like a big issue for you? Like, do you prefer to play with real cards? Do you maybe miss those times?
I I really much prefer playing with real cards. Like before like the PTA did like the regional, I barely played in the arena. I was like kind of forced myself to play more because I wasn't used to arena, etc. But over the summer, I mean, when you play Magic, because it's still the same game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But after the last Zendika Rising Championship, they sent us some boosters, like by post, and I received them like, really, like, why are you sending us boosters? And I cracked the booster open like when I was playing arena, and like I had like goosebumps because I haven't touched a real card in so long, and I'm like so used to like shuffling around the cards in my hand. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome! Like the smell of the booster you just opened, and it's little stuff like that. That I didn't know I missed that much before, like until very recently. But yeah, I've always like been very attached to the cards in and of itself. Used to play cards with my parents when I was a kid a lot. Like I'm very attached to it. And also when you play live tournaments, more beside the card, you have an opponent, a very real person in front of you, more than a screen name on the top right of your computer. And that changes a lot. Like you can, depending on who you're facing, some people are more or less susceptible to this. But I know you can influence the game by at the table, at least more in real life.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. You can just play the card in a certain way or wait for some time or tap a land in a certain way so that, you make your opponent think something and stuff like that.
Yeah. You can just you can adjust the pace of play more easily as well. I know some people are not comfortable when they're like especially people that play very slow. If you think at the same time that they think, you can like almost have no downtime in your own decision making. And like tapping card is obviously faster on live than it is on arena and stuff like that. So you can just like have them permanently be the one that have priority, and like that puts them on the back foot. And if you play super fast, they're gonna try to adapt their pace to yours, and they're gonna make more mistakes. And there's tens and tens of different ways you can do this. And that you just learn by playing, and you create yourself and experiment with in tournament settings.
So like right now, obviously we don't have a choice because of Corona. But what if like the GPs or like something similar to the old structure never comes back? We would just see basically tournaments only on arena, and maybe we would have like GP or two, but they wouldn't really like matter that much. So you could just basically play only online. Would that be something that you would still like to continue playing, or if the real tournaments don't come back, you don't really want to do this anymore?
Man, I pay to play Magic the Gathering for a living. Like if it like if only on arena, I'll only play on arena. That's fine. But obviously, I'd rather have live tournaments. And I doubt that it's gonna like come back to just arena. I think there is like the fact that Modern is such a popular format, and Pioneer and like Booster Draft and stuff like that. And I think just like it just makes for better coverage. Like look at the coverage on the like like try as they might, if you don't have everybody in the same room, you don't have the same quality of coverage then, because everyone has their own individual issue with their own internet. And
why do you think they don't have like Modern and Pioneer on arena? You just think it would be less special because of that?
I think Pioneer, they announce that they were going to bring Pioneer to arena?
I had no idea.
I think they were planning on doing so. I think Historic has kind of replaced it, and from what I've seen, like Pioneer is just like they're similar formats, right? And in a sense, even though like you have like maybe fewer cards in Historic, you have some like the busted jumpstart stuff and the random cards from the Historic.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. Like the pool is kind of similar, but like just slight differences means that there's like a different best deck, and then like the meta game completely shifts.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like in Pioneer, there's like the no lens deck.
Yeah.
It's not very that you cannot play in Pioneer. It's not very like spectacular friendly, I guess. But, I don't know. It's like I think Modern is a long way away, and because you have to have every card, right, if you want to play Modern.
Yeah, I don't actually know if it's like a big issue to like put cards into the system. So I don't really think so. So I think it like has to have different reasons.
Well, if you want to release cards, you cannot release like 15 sets at the same time, right? They have their own agenda of like they want to sell the cards that they're going to release, right? So you have to like between the normal and supplemental release, you have to fit in your Kaladesh Remaster type extension, right?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And so, like I know once in a while in Legacy on Magic Online, there's like a random niche card that's not accessible, like Drop of Honey or stuff like that. And people complain about it. So if you like make Modern quote unquote accessible, you want to make sure that every card that sees play in Modern or Pioneer is on Arena to the best of your ability. Of course, like if you play some obscure common that's like functionally like Shock and White Slash, for instance, if like White Slash is not an Arena, like it's fine, right? It's not going to change much, but if you don't have, for instance, like Scrub Trawler and KCI is illegal, like yeah, your format is going to look very different. So you're going to make sure that every like or Echo Wellspring, for instance, is the kind of card that could slip by and be an important piece of a combo deck or engine deck. So you want to make sure that as much as possible of Modern gets on Arena. So and that's like kind of the problem with the remaster set. For instance, they don't have all the puzzle nuts. I think in the Kaladesh remaster, you don't have the blue puzzle nuts. I think.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and like it's still some amount of play, or like Marvel ended up being unplayable anyways, which is surprising. But like it could have been because of it, like because some people used to play puzzle nut. Like, this is kind of
just like these small stuff.
It adds up, and you also like it's like so much more convenient to release Kaladesh Remastered than to have to release first Kaladesh and ban Copter and ban Ballista and then release into Revolt and then release the Revolt ban Ballista, etc. And like so they get to pick and choose a card they can, and I think they're just mostly going to develop on historic as far as Arena is concerned, and one day we'll just get back to play real Magic again. So I'm hopeful. I don't see why not. Like,
okay. Well, I think we've talked for enough. If there's still something that you would like to talk about, you of course can.
Well, thank you for having me, and this is the proof that you can just complain about something on Twitter and it gets done for you. So,
well, I think I would eventually message you anyway. It's just that there's a lot of people, so you know.
I know. That was mostly in jest. I was not feeling hurt about it. But I do appreciate being here. Listen, try to spin it in a positive way.
All right, thank you, Luis. For the people watching, if you like the video, please click on the like and subscribe button, and bye-bye.